If you look at the number of people who describe themselves as being lonely, in the United States, that's doubled within 20 years. And loneliness is as major a factor for physical illness as smoking 15 cigarettes a day.
I love Gabor Maté. We'll have more from him in a few minutes. We also have bird sounds, wolf pups, Olivia Reams and her take on loneliness, quick band update, and we'll be reading our first pages from Alice in Wonderland. This is Night Sessions, episode 1.
So I exhale a song, but breathe in a sickness as you cough out more lines, and I measure the distance back home.
Hey everyone, hope you're doing well tonight. How are you doing tonight, Amelia?
I'm doing well. I'm excited to hear more from Gabor.
Yeah, let's check that out.
The issue of loneliness. So if you look at the number of people who describe themselves as being lonely, in the United States, that's doubled within 20 years. And loneliness is as major a factor for physical illness as smoking 15 cigarettes a day, or as high blood pressure or obesity. And loneliness has been spreading in the Western world again under the impact of a globalized economic system that pits people against one another, that says that competition and aggression and mistrust of others is the way to survive, and which has, in many, many ways, documented ways, eroded communities and extended families and has cut down on people's sense of community. Loneliness is going up, and that's posing a major risk factor. People who are lonely get sicker faster, and they die sooner of their diseases.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's honestly really unbelievable and really scary if you really think about it.
Yeah, it's interesting that that's just now coming out. People are just, I mean, I don't know all of the science behind it, but from what I've heard, I believe it. I believe that, that this is true, that it's actually having these physical effects on people, which is, that's crazy to think about, but I think it's also kind of distressing for a lot of us that, might feel lonely, and you're like, well, man, is this like actually, it doesn't just feel like something, it's actually impacting me, like physically, like my life is being, my lifespan is being decreased because of it, which is, yeah, absolutely crazy.
Yeah. And then not knowing how to really, to manage it. Like, if you're lonely and you don't have anyone that you can reach out to or, connect with in a genuine way, I mean, how can you just change that,
Yeah, I think that's the daunting thing for most people is like, okay, yeah, we got it. Loneliness sucks. Like, it's bad. It's bad for everyone. It is, in a way, like taking over the world. It's becoming almost the norm, for people to be isolated and to be lonely. But then, okay, yeah, if you're one of those many, many, many people, then, what's your next move? Like, what's your path? I think also what Ritual also had to add to this was pretty interesting.
We're in this era in which we feel hyper-connected by virtue of our devices, and yet most of us are suffering from some level of loneliness that is endemic to this period of time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was literally just gonna say that the shield of the phone and mostly the phone. I was gonna say computer, but mostly just your phone. We've even talked about it, and I don't know if you all have talked about it with your friends and stuff, but when you have your phone there, how the connection just gets broken. You're having a connection and then it's it's broken and
instantly severed.
even if you just, do a quick little scroll, just a quick little text check, any of that, like your connection with the person you're actually with just goes out the window. And there's that blank space that, it's like that obvious, like, oh, we just left the room. Like we just disconnected. Yeah,
it's ultra depressing. But it's all in the guise of like, oh, we're more connected than ever.
Yeah. I mean, at first it was nice when, you thought you could just call people and that was cool. Like it started out innocently enough.
Yeah, that's what I was saying the other day. I think phones like mobile phones were, I'm not going to say they were a great thing, but they had obvious pluses and not the obvious overwhelming negatives that it seems that current phones have. And there was that moment. It was like texting in regular phones, and it was all right, and then as soon as you could go on the internet, like really go on the internet, like when the iPhones like really started to happen, and as soon as you could go on the internet, and people always say, oh, it's social media. It's like, I don't actually think it's social media. I don't think it's that. I think it's internet on your phone.
Yeah. I mean, that does play. Yeah.
I think social media amplifies it, blows it all up.
Well, it just adds to the dopamine hit. It's like, you just, at first, you had the dopamine hits with just texting. Cause like, that's cool. Someone cares about you. You get some smiley faces, but then it goes to the next level when you can get, all the hearts. You press the apps, you're getting hearts, you're getting non-hearts, all the, your brain's just going crazy. And then that goes to the second thing of like, we're kind of helpless to it and it's addiction. And then we're lonely because we're addicted to it. But then how can we get off of it? Because we're addicted to it. And then we don't even know how to be by ourselves because we're never by ourselves because we're always addicted to the phone and like addicted to connecting in that way. It's like,
like any addiction too, you have to actually be willing to acknowledge and admit that you have an addiction. And to me, it seems really obvious that I don't think our society is even close to admitting it.
Or it's a societally acceptable addiction.
Well, of course it is.
Old societally acceptable addiction.
But you still have to, I mean, if you do believe it's an addiction, or if you believe that addictions, you need to acknowledge it and accept and admit that you have the addiction, and we're not close to that. So whether it's societally approved or not, it's not going to matter. I mean, like if you're destroying your life and the whole world's, patting you on the back on the way down, great. But that's what we're, at least that's my feeling on what's happening is that, we've just sunk into it. And
I don't know if, a lot of people even want to fight it because there are obviously benefits of being connected in this way, but I don't know if people even want to fight it a lot of the time.
Well, there's benefits in necessity. That's the thing, right? Like, if you want to exist, honestly, if you want to exist in this world in the normal manner, and some would argue just the functional manner, you have to be all entrenched in your technology, in your phone, your everything, And
it's true, if you want to have any business or do anything.
Yeah,
it's really hard.
So,
I'd be curious.
What is that about?
I don't know. I'd be curious if anyone has even tried to distance at all, or done anything at all to.
Yeah, that's actually really interesting because I felt very alone in my attempts. And like when we've tried things, I've felt very alone in that. Like it's just, we're the only ones doing this. Everyone else is just, and I don't think that's true, but it's how it's felt to me that I don't have the sense that anyone's fighting, or I don't have the sense that very many people are fighting. So if you are, it'd be really interesting to hear what you're doing, what your thoughts on it, and what you're doing. Because, man, if there was an idea that I would love to see spread, it'd be that idea. I'd love to see the idea of, hey, let's think about what we're doing. And obviously it has happened. Like when you have like shows that require you tuck your phone into the envelope and you can't in a little bag and you can't, like it's
like
happening.
Concerts, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. When you have any type of shows or concert, but that's 1/1000th of our lives. What happens when you go home? What happens when you're around your friends and your family or whatever? And like, what happens then? Is it just free for all, or are people actually, are they fighting it? I mean, I don't know, but I would absolutely love to see that blow up, that idea. And I think
That would be cool.
I sense that it is a little bit, but not nearly to the level that I would like to see it.
Yeah, it's just, you do notice it's so different, when you even decide to like, okay, we're not going to look at this when we're talking. Like, it's so much different. Or when I'm writing a song, I'm going to not at all engage with this. Like, you're just so much more connected, and the distractions really break. Like they break up my brain so badly, even more than it's already broken up. I feel like with anxiety and some like ADD stuff, it's already like that. And then having the phone just makes it to the next level.
Yeah. This quote from Jim Carrey I thought was really interesting. And we're talking a lot about phone stuff, but it's under the theme of loneliness. And I would argue strongly that the loneliness epidemic that's happening now is because of this stay at home, stay on the internet, stay on your phone, your computer, just isolate. And so all of this is under sort of that umbrella, I think, of loneliness. But this I thought was it's a slightly different aspect of loneliness, but he said that I think everybody should get rich and famous and do everything they ever dreamed of so they can see that it's not the answer. And I think that's really great, because one of the things that I think about a lot with loneliness is one of the craziest concepts is that you have people that are maybe literally never alone. Like they're super famous, super wealthy. They're always, people are just, it's just a magnet. People are just pulled to them. So they basically spend probably most of their time not being alone and have the option to never be alone, because they can just snap their finger and there's 10, 100,000, 10,000 people who are like dying to be around them, yet they will be lonely. Like, what a crazy concept is that? Like,
it's interesting. And, I think it's like kind of relates to the feeling like you're an other. Like, to me, it relates like, so if you're really famous and you're like, you feel like you can't share that experience with other people.
Well, that's another part.
So you feel othered from it. So you feel like you have to be, like you are just innately separate. And obviously that's not true, because everyone's a human and shares a lot of similarities. But it's like, I feel like that celebrity thing kind of shares a similar space with someone who might be in an addiction or deep depression or anxiety or like things that are also isolating situations. You think you're alone in it. You think you're so different. So then you feel very alone and you can't connect to anyone. But in reality, I mean, there are shared connections between people, and there's still so much, purpose in trying to have that. But, I feel like it's kind of similar in those ways.
Well, yeah, it's not what I was talking about, but that is another crazy, unexpected aspect of being in that position of being like ultra famous. Who would think you're going to get there and be alone? Because I think a lot of people, most of us, we feel like we're not alone when we can talk to other people and we can connect to and we have this shared sense of like, oh, we're going through the same thing. You understand me, I understand you, and we can connect on it. So then what you're saying is, well, yeah, it's like me and, I remember, what's his name? Chris, what's his face from Coldplay was talking about that. He was
Chris
like,
Martin, I think.
yeah, Chris Martin. He was saying there's only like 20 other people in the world that know what it means to be a stadium performer. And when he said that, I was like, wow, that is just so crazy. Like the thoughts that you and I are never going to have, or maybe not never going to have, but we're not having them now. And how crazy is that, right? And so those are that's like what you're talking about. It's like those realities that all of a sudden exist.
Yeah, that do isolate you in some probably, yeah, really intense ways. But it's if you fight through that, I mean, I'm going to go a little crazy here and say, if you fight through that ego and narcissism of like, oh, no one understands how I'm feeling, this experience that is shared when you're in addiction, or shared, when you have some really intense mental stuff like depression, anxiety, you're like, oh, no one understands this feeling. No one understands it. But it's not the fact. Like there's the huge array of human feelings. Someone else has felt it. Like someone
maybe else
has.
Maybe slightly differently.
And you just can't, you just don't know that yet because you've been, too scared or shameful or whatever to try to have a shared moment.
Yeah. And I think also just to kind of just expand on what I was saying earlier, that I think a lot of us have this sense of like, if we get somewhere, we won't feel alone. If we succeed, or if we do get famous, or we do, that we won't feel lonely because all these people will have all the, and then the question starts to become a different question. Is loneliness because you're alone? Or is it just something internal that you're going to feel no matter what life circumstance you're in? And maybe no matter who you're around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and perfect. Yeah. I was just thinking of this. Yeah.
This is interesting.
But the most important thing of all is to be okay with being alone sometimes, with actually finding it, oddly enough, kind of pleasurable, to not have all those annoying noises, those annoying people, all that narcissism out there, all that crap that we have to deal with. Yeah, I like being alone sometimes. I like just sitting in the bathtub and reading a book. I like just watching a movie, etc., by myself. If you can do that, if you can find pleasure in being alone, then loneliness loses a lot of its sting.
It's like a starting point, Like you need that. You need what he's saying. Right?
I mean,
you need that.
That's so hard.
You need to have that.
Especially for some people to be okay, feel okay when you're alone and not turn to an addiction or a behavior.
Or your phone.
Or your phone.
I mean, which we're all just constantly doing.
It's so hard. And I think something that aids in that is, he talks about it, I think a little bit in this little episode more, but is doing an activity that can connect you, like they call it mindful activity. Like for me, like writing a song or something like that. I love doing that alone. I would want to be alone. It feels great. And I'm doing something that's connected, but then the next level is, just sitting there alone. And
just being completely okay with that. I remember someone talking about how we're not bored anymore, and that's a tragedy, because within boredom comes magical, amazing things. Like that's where ideas come from. That's where song ideas come from. That's where, and when we don't ever allow a moment, because we're like, oh, as soon as someone walks in the other room, pick up your phone, pick up your phone, pick up your phone. And in those moments, what else might have happened in the past? Like what else something else was happening in the past. Something else was happening. And then, so then the next question is, well, what's lost in those moments? You know? And either we won't ever know, or we'll somehow stop continually just grabbing the phone, and we'll relearn maybe, you know, like what.
Yeah. And fight through the discomfort, because, you know, there definitely will be discomfort that comes if you try to be alone.
Massive. I mean, you might feel all sorts of things that you've been just pleading to never feel again, you know, and until you dig in.
Especially if you've been hurt in the past, which most people have been hurt, you know, like any kind of trauma or anything that has been really painful.
And sometimes even moderately painful things, you just don't. Like, if given the option, do you want to sit and feel that or not? You know? I mean, we're kind of wired in a way to just choose to opt out, you know, of a lot of feelings that you're like, arguably, you're like, really, that's not that big a deal. Some of it absolutely is. And then, you know, the argument to opt out of those feelings becomes pretty clear, but some of it,
yeah,
we just do it. We just like, no feelings. Don't keep it all away from me, all of it.
Yeah, and I know I'm not alone, and hopefully any of you, please tell me I'm not alone, because I know I'm not. For years, I fought every single feeling, and it got me nowhere. And actually, yeah, it was very destructive, and yeah, it's hard.
Here's something for you.
Oh, this is nice, though. This is very soothing.
Classic.
I know. This little guy, this sound, he is, I think, my top 3 most nostalgic sounds. The mourning dove.
Top 3, really?
Oh, it is for me. The mourning dove is top 3, because all through childhood, it was just such a staple. Like, it just, yeah.
When did you figure out what that was? Like, when did you figure out?
The mourning dove?
Yeah, like, when did you? I mean, I've heard that sound.
You heard, yeah.
Until I don't know what age, and then someone was like, "Oh, that's a mourning dove." I didn't. How old was I before I even knew?
Yeah, it's kind of, I do believe I used to feel that it was a mournful sound, for sure. And I liked that. And I think it used to haunt me a little bit, like very subtly. The feeling would be like he sort of a little haunting to me, but it's such a nostalgic sound and feeling.
Yeah, I'm trying to
it.
think back to where I have some really distinct memories. Do you have any?
I mean, all through when I was a kid, just
outside
at my
your
house. Yeah, I mean, I spent a lot of time in the backyard, like we had a little, like, we called it a forest, but it was just like a berm is, I think, the name for it. But it's like a bushel of like plants that, you know, is a big area, and like you'd always hear the mourning dove just doing his coo. And weirdly, they're actually they're a pigeon, I think, which is kind of funny because, I don't know, they have such a distinguished sound, and they seem like...
They look like pigeons.
Yeah, they're a pigeon, you know? Just a lowly pigeon, but not lowly at all.
Yeah.
Oh, and quick band update, too, for you. We released a song called Pyramids, maybe... I think it was 3 weeks ago now, and we have a few versions of it. So one is more like just chill, like acoustic, just guitar, and the other one it has bass and drums. It's kind of, I don't know, I like the vibe of that one. It's nice. It's kind of calming, actually. But yeah, we have an awesome music video for it too. It's we shot it at this little baseball field in up north in Seattle, and it's
at night. It's really
It's
cool.
cool.
We shot it at night with the lights, so it has like, and we rented this anamorphic lens. For any of you film nerds, you know what that is. Well, for anyone, if you've ever seen like sci-fi movies and stuff where they have like the blue lines that shoot across when the light hits it, we rented one of those lenses, and it does a lot of different things, but one of the effects that it has is just sort of has those blue lines, and so it's pretty cool. It was really fun. I drove by the other night, I was telling you about this, and yeah, I had a lot of good memories of that shoot. And despite destroying our drone, flew into a tree.
That was sad. That was
that
actually
happened.
very bad.
Yeah, that happened.
Yeah, but
And you yelled at me.
yeah, that was not ideal. Yes, it was a disturbing time. But yeah, the feeling of nostalgia comes up too with that because it was a summer night.
Yeah.
And it's like,
For
I feel
sure.
like, okay, please, you guys must feel nostalgic with the summer nights. Like, it's something about the warmth,
And the humidity.
the
a little
humidity.
bit, yeah.
It gives you this lull, the lull of a summer
Yeah.
night.
That was, that you're absolutely right. I know
That's true.
that's what hit me when I drove by, and I just kind of looked over
Yeah.
at the field and I was like, oh, that was a good time. And it was a crazy amount of work. I mean, all these videos, music videos and stuff, so much work. It's just so like overwhelming to try to like, we don't know what we're doing, we're just like trying to like figure it out like on the fly, and it's so much work, and you're like running around and figuring all this stuff out, but it's usually really fun. It's just hard, but still fun.
Yeah, and really fun to see it come together when you see it.
And then we have another version with our other project called Crush Smokes, and that's like a synth version. They're all sort of similar, but like sort of not, kind of really different. So we got some more of the morning. Got some more of the morning dub here. Let's check this out.
Yes.
We all know and love the
This is
original
amazing.
singing bird clock. It has been enjoyed by
Listen,
over
listen.
10 million people. Now it's back and better than
There
ever.
he is.
Yep, he's in
Introducing
there.
the new 25th
He was
anniversary
7
singing
p.m.
bird clock with enhanced artwork and new dynamic sound. Now you can fill the room with the real-life sounds of nature.
Oh, the acting
Every
is so
hour, each
incredible.
unique songbird comes to life. Like the
The
breathtaking
overwhelming
tones
amount of
northern
joy
bird
in
birds,
everyone's
the
face is
boisterous
just
blue jay,
so incredible.
or the
What if that clock made you that happy? I'd have one in that.
12
Look at this.
authentic live recordings.
Wait, watch this.
Digitally remastered for
He
incredible
just jumps
clarity.
up and he's like, I gotta go. Where, do you see him running off too?
You may not know the difference.
Man,
Oh man, that is so amazing.
I wish a clock could make me that happy.
That clock does. I had that clock. I didn't want to mention it because I wanted to leave it a surprise for when you see this incredible video. But that morning dove was 7 p.m. on that clock, so that was probably part of the reason that it's also ingrained in my brain as a nostalgic sound.
Yeah.
7 p.m. The morning dove would coo on the singing
that
bird clock.
What's funny is both of our moms, both of them had that.
I mean,
And it really is kind of, I never jumped out of my seat in joy with that smile on my face, but I definitely did enjoy it. Okay, so not to outdo the morning dove, but this one is like hard to understand. This bird's watching a lot of Star Wars. Look at his throat.
it's incredible. It's so amazing.
That's some R2-D2 right there.
I forgot how crazy this is.
Oh, he's having a lot of fun.
He's the most amazing situation. Isn't he? I don't even have words.
I wonder if that was his whole vocabulary or if that was,
I think he has more because
Really?
yeah, that little guy, he's named the Mouth, I believe. And this person has a whole YouTube channel of him that
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
We'll
wow.
link it, but he's incredible. It's just he's on TikTok too and stuff. But
that
I think
was-
he's a European starling.
there was
is
some
that type of
R2-D2
bird.
in there. Did you hear that?
Yeah.
Did you hear the Star Wars stuff?
Yes, I heard the R2D2, but he's a European starling, and starlings in general, they're really good mimics. So I think I think maybe his whole vocabulary is what he's mimicked, but don't quote me on that. If any of you know about starlings, tell us, because I'm not sure, but I do know they can mimic though.
All right,
They're
we
good
got to
mimics.
up the cute factor here. Here it comes. Watch out. He's trying to howl.
Oh. No.
What? Watch up in the top left there. Do you see?
Oh my gosh, yeah, what is that?
There's another one.
Oh, that's so cute.
And he like look at him. He kind of jumped up at one moment. The other one woke him up at one moment. Look at this. These guys got to be young. Look how wobbly they are.
Yeah, they're really unstable.
So wobbly.
Oh my gosh, that's a precious infant.
Yeah. If you can just
So that's a
ignore-
wolf, right?
Yeah, just ignore the fact that they're wolves for a moment, because they're like
Wolves are so cool.
so cute and wobbly. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. I thought this was pretty cool because what we were talking about earlier, that concept of loneliness and the sort of struggle of like, okay, well, but what do I do? Well, we talked about like phones and stuff, and there's that, but there's people have always been lonely. People have always struggled with loneliness, and I thought this next video was pretty interesting. She's her name is Olivia Reams, and this is from a TED Talk, and it's kind of just like, here it is. Here are some ideas, and she was talking about just trying to put yourself out there more, and there's a lot of specifics, and we'll have the links for this and all these videos in the notes and in the description. So if you want to check it out, it's pretty good. But this is sort of a kind of a quick like summary sort of what she's kind of getting at.
I'd like to go back to the story about my friend who was very lonely and would ask herself, what's wrong with me? She made it a point to talk to everyone everywhere and to open up. She started talking with the person helping her out at the phone store. And when she was in a bookstore and someone asked her what the book she was reading was called, instead of just answering the question, she talked a little bit more. She said what she thought of the book. She recommended some other ones on that same topic. And she talked about how what she was reading tied into the work that she was doing. That day was the first day of their friendship. Who would have thought that just because she had made this small resolve to talk to everyone everywhere, that this would happen, that she would make a new friend when she least expected it.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
It's all about how I think the identity that we create for ourselves. And I think a lot of us create an identity of like, here's what I do in certain circumstances. Like it's like a ritual, a habit. Like this is how I treat an interaction when someone, comes up to me and asks me something or whatever it might be. This is my default. And what she's saying is like, just challenge the default. Just see if there's any room to expand those moments and and break out of what is your default. And that it actually has real results. Like your life can actually be altered by things that at first it kind of feels a little bit like, all right, yeah, but that's not, yeah, it's not like every time you talk to someone, oh my God, I have a new best friend. It's not like that. But 1 out of 20, at least you're like, there's now like you're opening yourself up to possibilities that otherwise, to sort of protect ourselves and shell up a little bit, we would never have those opportunities.
I think it's the risk that just keeps you away from it, Just
it's easier too. Yeah.
It's so much easier. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just so much easier to default. And as someone who's not like, I'm not an extrovert, I'm not someone who's like, gonna just be like, 100% on when I meet someone. That's not it. I understand this concept that I know I have certain ways of doing certain things, but are they actually beneficial? And all she's saying is like, just challenge it, like challenge it to go one step beyond what you might normally do.
It's cool. I'm going to play that song that I made. I made a little song from the poem that's at the beginning of the book we'll read, Alice in Wonderland. And I just took a few of the little stanzas and made this little 30-second song.
Thus grew the tale of Wonderland. Thus slowly, one by one, its quaint events were hammered out. And now the tale is done, and home we steer a merry crew beneath our setting sun. Alice, a childish story take, and with a gentle hand lay where childhood dreams are twined in memory's mystic band, like pilgrims with a wreath of flowers tucked in a far-off land.
Oh, it's one of my new favorite songs. I really like that a lot. I know you wrote it just for this, but I really think we're thinking about making a version of that and releasing it because I don't know, I really like it. I think it's really cool.
I like it. Yeah, it's neat. It's like a little, just like a little fable type thing at the beginning. It summarizes the book basically. And yeah.
Yeah, it's really good. I really like that.
Yay.
Here it is, my favorite part.
Okay, reading time.
I get to be read to.
Yep. All right. Chapter 1, Down the Rabbit Hole. Alice was beginning to get very tired of sitting by her sister on the bank and of having nothing to do. Once or twice she had peeped into the book her sister was reading, but it had no pictures or conversation in it. And what is the use of a book, thought Alice, without pictures or conversations? So she was considering in her own mind, as well as she could, for the hot day made her feel very sleepy and stupid, whether the pleasure of making a daisy chain would be worth the trouble of getting up and picking the daisies, when suddenly a white rabbit with pink eyes ran close by her. There was nothing so very remarkable in that, nor did Alice think it so very much out of the way to hear the rabbit say to itself, oh dear, I shall be too late." When she thought it over afterward, it occurred to her that she ought to have wondered at this, but at the time it all seemed quite natural. But when the rabbit actually took a watch out of its waistcoat pocket and looked at it, and then hurried on, Alice started to her feet, for it flashed across her mind that she had never before seen a rabbit with either a waistcoat pocket or a watch to take out of it, and, burning with curiosity, she ran across the field after it, and was just in time to see it pop down a large rabbit hole under the hedge. In another moment, down went Alice after it, never once considering how in the world she was to get out again. The rabbit hole went straight on like a tunnel for some way, and then dipped suddenly down, so suddenly that Alice had not a moment to think about stopping herself, before she found herself falling down what seemed to be a very deep well. Either the well was very deep, or she fell very slowly, for she had plenty of time as she went down to look about her, and to wonder what was going to happen next. First she tried to look down and make out what she was coming to, but it was too dark to see anything. Then she started to look at the sides of the well, and noticed that they were filled with cupboards and bookshelves. Here and there she saw maps and pictures hung upon pegs. She took down a jar from one of the shelves as she passed it. It was labeled orange marmalade, but to her great disappointment, it was empty. She did not like to drop the jar for fear of killing somebody underneath, so managed to put it to one of the cupboards as she fell past it. Well, thought Alice to herself, after such a fall as this, I should think nothing of tumbling downstairs. How brave they'll all think of me at home. Why, I wouldn't say anything about it even if I fell onto the top of the house, which was very likely true. Down, down, down. Would the fall never come to an end? I wonder how many miles I've fallen by this time, she said aloud. I must be getting somewhere near the center of the earth. Let me see. That would be 4,000 miles down, I think. For, you see, Alice had learned several things of this sort in her lessons in the schoolroom. And though this was not a very good opportunity for showing off her knowledge, as there was no one to listen to her, still it was good practice to say it over. Yes, that's about right, the distance, but I wonder what latitude or longitude I've got to. Alice had not the slightest idea what latitude was, or longitude either, but she thought they were nice grand words to say. Presently, she began again. I wonder if I shall fall right through the earth. How funny it'll come to, among the people, and I walk with their heads downward. The empathies, I think. She was rather glad there was no one listening at this time, as it didn't sound like at all the right word. But I shall have to ask them what the name of the country is, you know. Please, ma'am, is this New Zealand or Australia? And she tried to curtsy as she spoke. Fancy curtsying as you're falling through the air. Do you think you could manage it? And what an ignorant little girl she'll think me for asking. No, it'll never do to ask. Perhaps I shall see it's written up somewhere. Down, down, down. There was nothing else to do, so Alice began talking again. Dinah'll miss me very much tonight, I should think. Dinah was the cat. I hope they'll remember her saucer of milk at tea time. Dinah, my dear, I wish you were down here with me. There are no mice in the air, I'm afraid, but you might catch a bat, and that's very like a mouse, you know. But do cats eat bats, I wonder? And here Alice began to get rather sleepy, and went on saying to herself in a dreamy sort of way, Do cats eat bats? Do cats eat bats? And sometimes, do bats eat cats? For you see, as she couldn't answer either question, it didn't matter much which way she put it. She felt that she was dozing off and had just begun to dream, that she was walking hand in hand with Dinah and was saying to her very earnestly, Now, Dinah, tell me the truth. Did you ever eat a bat? When suddenly, thump, thump, down she came upon a heap of sticks and dry leaves, and the fall was over. Page 5. Pick up there next time.
I've never read this book.
That's crazy.
It's already like so much crazier than I mean, I understand like she falls on a rabbit hole, so it's kind of crazy, but the fact that she's like calmly thinking her way through a fall.
It's supposed to be fantastical.
Oh, it is. Yeah.
Yeah, it's supposed to be.
Oh, yeah, I'm kind of curious where what the first thing is that happens next, like when she's down there. Like, what's her first vision? I mean, it's so weird because I've never read it. I don't know.
It's a good one.
That fades when you're away, and the last thing that I've said to you is always on replay. So I exhale a song, but breathe in a sickness as you cough out more lines, and I measure the distance back home. And I'm not giving more than what I have the time to give. And I'm not saying more than paintings etched on pyramids. And I'm not sure where love will take us when I'm hopeless, young and you. But it's all downhill from here.
Good night, everyone. We'll see you here tomorrow.